Khemjira the series took a risk, and it's paying off. Welcome to my channel if you've never been here before, or welcome back if you have. My name is Brinley. You can also call me Bryn, and I make reaction, review, and critique content here on the web. Today we're going to be talking about Khemjira the series and a risk I believe they took, and in fact is already paying off. The day I'm filming this video, 4 episodes of Khemjira have already premiered. I'm not sure when it's coming out, so at this point this is before episode 5 aired. Something the show has done in the first 4 episodes is put plot and strong writing first before anything else. The show has not been sacrificing the development of characters in the plot because they are worried the main ship won't get enough screen time. In each episode, there have been scenes without one or both of the main leads that happen, and they're not necessarily even talking about what's going on with the main leads, and yet every single one of those scenes is used in a way to help the plot and characters further develop. The writers are trusting that the audience, A, will like the story, B, let the story, the plot, carry the viewers through the narrative, and therefore the romance between the two ships. While this has been something I've personally observed, it's also something that the Khemjira team has publicly explained that they're doing. Let's take a look at this quote. After the first episode dropped, Crew Den tweeted this. At first, I was really worried about the script for episode 1. We revised it 6 times. It's almost impossible for a BL series not to have the main lead appear from the very first break. But in the novel, it takes more than 100 pages before poor Crew appears. So I talked with Piaf and said, if we set aside the idea of making it a typical BL series and instead tell the story the way it's meant to be told, it might help build up the plot and the audience's emotional connection to the characters more. Clearly, Crew Den and I both see this choice as a risk for a Y series to attempt. Why is that? In my opinion, there are a lot of BL and GL series that are afraid to not have the main ship and their interactions be the thing that gets the most screen time and most development. Something else I've noticed is that some series, when it is based on source material, right, they will take plot lines and soften them, like soften the blow so it ends up being a lot more fluffy. Or what they'll do is they'll take development and angst that's often given to the main characters and sort of water it down into something that is more palatable. I think some writers are afraid to have the main ship in a series not only share screen time together, especially if the pairing is very, very popular, or sometimes we'll even see them tone down storylines and completely change them so that while maybe in a book that the series is based on, maybe the plot line in that episode of the TV show completely changes it to be something a lot more fluffy and unserious. And I think in those particular instances, I can think of 2 off the top of my head. If you can think of one, let me know down below. Please don't have a fan war in my comment section though. This is a safe space. And something I've noticed that when a show does this, when they radically change the plot of the source material, or they radically change the intensity levels. Like let's say a show takes something that's pretty angsty, you know, where the main ship, most of their interactions have a lot of angst, and then they tone that down for the series. I think it can cause character development and the romance and the series when they make that choice, essentially worried about upsetting the ship's fandom. I think it can cause the plot to fall off majorly and can have general audiences and even some very, very loyal fans feeling disappointed. And in that way, the story is not as effective and not as narratively strong. So yeah, that's why I believe it is a risk, especially because there's this past, like I said before, of series that when they are sort of afraid to not have the main ship and their actions be the aspect of the show that gets the most screen time and development. And Something you might not know about me, but I am a writer. I have a master's of fine arts in writing for children. Let me give you my opinion as a writer. I think that this whole argument about what should take the center stage in a plotline is actually based on the genre of story and the type of story you're trying to tell. So let me give a hypothetical example and then a practical example that I think we'll all be familiar with. For our hypothetical example, let us consider the concept of an epic high fantasy story. Could be a GL, could be a BL, with magic and political intrigue. For example, let's do a hypothetical comp title. I'm thinking off the top of my head, books that I'm thinking of when I'm making up this example is Priory of the Orange Tree, The Jasmine Throne. In the case of a hypothetical high fantasy with magic, epic storylines, political intrigue, I would expect that the main ship interacting and having cute moments would not be the thing or aspect that got the most screen time, because that wouldn't necessarily work for making sure that the plot had a good enough and strong enough story arc, time for world building, and time for character development. Because if you're doing an epic high fantasy, there's going to be more than just 2 or 4 characters. There's going to be an entire world and system that you have to set up and build. Make sense? I'm going to mention a show now that many of you may not be familiar with, and sadly, it's really hard to get access to watch it, but I really want to mention it here because I think it's a great example. There was a TV show called Willow, which was a Disney Plus original, and it had a sapphic romance as one, the B or C plot. And what I think really worked about that is the character development and their relationship were given time and expert time to develop, but they did not sacrifice the overarching plot so that we could see the main ship, the Sapphics were the main ship to me, interact. So what I mean when I said before about this whole argument about what should take center stage should depend on the plot and the genre, right? What is the story you're trying to tell? If you think about it, Khemjira has a lot of horror and fantasy elements. So if they sacrificed the world building and development and the key plot points, the story would fall completely flat. So now let's talk about an example of the opposite, where the ship and their interactions takes the main stage and why it works narratively. Very, very briefly though. Your Sky is a 2024 BL from Demundi, the same production company that produced and developed Khemjira, also based on a novel, just like Khemjira, and it is the complete opposite. In the show, the relationship between Fa and Rock completely takes the main stage, but it works because the show is meant to be a essentially lighthearted, fluffy university romance. And it worked because of the genre and the plot line, right? We got fake dating to real relationship to figuring out how to be in a real relationship with each other and how that affects the two of them and their community. That was the main plot of Your Sky. So because Fa and Rock have all these very cutesy moments together, none of that was sacrificing the plot, because when it's Your Sky, in the genre and in the overarching plot and conflict of Your Sky, that was exactly what the plot and conflict was. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Khemjira has a lot more going on, and that's okay. It's a different genre. Stories don't have to function the same. Stories can be different. And in fact, I think having a lot of options and different kind of stories that are being told, even being produced by the same company, I think, in my opinion, makes it more fun to consume and special. So if for some reason Khemjira just kind of ignored the whole Yod and the ghost Rampung plotline, I don't think it would be as effective, and it definitely would not be getting the ratings that it is. Like I said, if they sacrificed the world building and development and the key plot points of Khemjira, I believe the series would fall flat. So that's why I'm recognizing they took a risk. And in my opinion, it's paying off. Let's start by taking a look at some of the numbers. First of all, I want to give an acknowledgement to TV Stats TH on Twitter because every single week they've been posting the national Nielsen ratings for each episode. They've also been doing this for a few other BLs that are currently airing. Thank you for that. So let's go through the Nielsen ratings for episode 1 through 4 for nationwide, okay? Then we'll talk about some of the Nielsen ratings for Bangkok, and we'll talk kind of afterwards why I think this is significant. So episode 1 got a ranking nationwide of 0.83. Episode 2 got a nationwide ranking of 0.93. Episode 3, which is currently the highest rated nationwide, got a 1.09. And episode 4 got a 0.93, same rating as episode 2. In Bangkok, Khemjira episode 1 got a rating of 1.031. Episode 3 broke that with a new high of 1.46 in Bangkok. And episode 4 got a new high of 1.824. Okay, so you also might be wondering, what the heck is a Nielsen rating? Let's talk about it. A Nielsen rating is an audience measurement system of television viewership that has long been the deciding factor in canceling or renewing television shows by television networks. So you might be wondering, why are you bringing this up except that it keeps breaking its own record? And that is a very good question. Typically, BL and GL series in Thailand do not rank anywhere close to this normally. Because of the ratings it's been getting, technically, as of right now, according to my research, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, Damundi's highest rated series of all time, as of right now. So let's take a look at some examples. We can look at kind of what another BL currently airing series has been pulling Nielsen rating-wise, and we're going to talk a little bit about and look at an example of a non-BL or GL. We'll see where it ranks with that. So before we get into this, every series I mention, please know, I am not inviting you to hate on the series, and I am not hating on the series by sharing its Nielsen TV rating. I cannot control Nielsen TV ratings. I am simply just telling you what I've discovered. I'm bringing this up so we can analyze and make some inferences together about writing, okay? I am sorry if I bring up your favorite series and you are not happy with the Nielsen ratings. I cannot control what the Nielsen ratings are. So please know, by me saying, if I brought up your favorite series and you are not happy with the Nielsen rating, I did not cook the results. I cannot do that. I am not part of Nielsen, okay? So please keep that in mind. I'm not trying to send hate to any of these series. I just want us to all have an educated conversation together, and why I think this risk the Khemjira series took is paying off. So let's take a look. This is a currently airing series called Shine. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It is Beyond Cloud's latest original. And so you can see here, it's getting fairly high ratings comparatively to some of the other stuff we're going to look at. But nothing anywhere close to reaching the 1 point category. And they haven't even reached over a 7 yet, and it's over halfway through the series. So now I'm going to bring up some ratings of the highest rated Thai dramas. So for example, some of these ratings get 4.26, 3.56, 2.6, average, okay? So if Khemjira continues to pull these kind of ratings, it could cement itself as one of the highest rated BLs of all time in Thailand. Now, I also made a pretty big claim earlier that Khemjira is the highest ranked Damundi series so far. So I thought I would pull you the stats I was able to find. I was only able to find stats for 2 former Damundi series because Nielsen ratings aren't that easy to find. They're not very publicly available. So as you can see here, the Nielsen ratings for The Next Prince averaged 0.33, with the highest Nielsen rating for the series being episode 8 at 0.50. Something else interesting to note is The Next Prince and Shine were crossing airing dates, I think a little bit, maybe at the end. And something else to note about Shine, which I might make a video essay on later, but something else to notice about them is I also think Shine is attempting to take this sort of risk. Who knows if it'll be effective? At this point, I'm kind of waiting to see where Shine goes before I start analyzing it in this way. And why is that, Brinley? Well, I want to see what they do with this one plot point before I start talking about it, if that makes sense. So stay tuned for that. So even putting these two next to each other, there is a significant difference in the Nielsen ratings for both of them. So if you think about it, we've compared Khemjira to a currently airing BL as well, a formerly airing Demundi BL, and I thought we should also look at the stats for the other Demundi series I was able to pull in the context of other series that were airing at that time. The other series I was able to pull was IQIYI, which was airing in 2022. So here it is compared to two other series that also were airing in 2022. Interestingly enough, about IQIYI, the highest rated episode was also episode 8 at 0.197. Honestly, I feel like these three series are kind of perfect to look at compared to each other, because if you think about it, we have Miracle of a Teddy Bear pulling very, very high numbers comparatively, Ken Porsche kind of polling middle of the road, and then IQIYI more on the lower side. Please know I am not hating on IQIYI or Ken Porsche or Miracle of the Teddy Bear. I'm just using them as examples to show you how unique it is that Khemjira is pulling such high Nielsen ratings, okay? For the sake of it, just so nobody accuses me of favoritism, I will also throw up some stats from GMM TV series. Like I said, Nielsen ratings are kind of hard to find publicly, so it's very hard to find data for specific shows until I found that wonderful Twitter account I told you all about a few minutes ago. But let's take a look at some of these GMM TV ratings. Feel free to click and look. One more thing I will mention is currently the Thai BL with the highest Nielsen rating is Spare Me Your Mercy. It has an average of 1.94. While To Sir With Love holds the title of the Thai BL with the highest scored episode at 2.8, episode 16. So as of right now, I'll throw these stats up again just so y'all can see it. Khemjira is getting really high ratings comparatively to other BLs that are airing now. And part of me thinks the reason why it's getting such high ratings and such high critical review is because partially they are taking this risk where they are prioritizing the plot. And this it really excites me because I hope that more in the future, screenwriters will feel empowered to make these kind of decisions. I truly believe if you have a strong story, well-developed world, and well-developed characters, the plot will carry the viewers through the narrative, and viewers will feel not only more emotionally attached to the piece of media, but to the characters as well. So we'll have to observe as the series continues to air if they'll be able to keep up with the strong writing, world building, and character development. There's really no way to know what happens. We just have to sit back and watch. But I want to have faith though. If you made it this far in the video, leave a ghost emoji down below, or let me know what you thought about my point, what you're thinking about Khemjira so far. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support me further, check out my Patreon, which is linked down below. Okay, hope to see you next time. Bye.